thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming out and seeing some familiar faces and some new faces on our first in-person meeting for the academic year. For those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Christopher Blakely. I do serve as the vice chair, and unfortunately, our chair, Dennis Quisberry, could not be here, so I'll be serving that capacity today. I just want to welcome everybody tonight and be aware that we are looking to follow CDC guidelines for social distancing and mask wearing during the meeting. If anyone's in need of a mask or additional mask, we provide an entrance there, and then guests, we won't be physically signing in, but our recording secretary will be making sure that we all here are correct. So please don't forget to make sure you sign in, and if there's any public comment, will occur before the closing of our meeting. Just to state, each comment will have a maximum 2 minutes for public comment. The public comment section portion of the meeting will be limited to no more than 1 hour. More than 20 comments are received, time per comment will be reduced to 1 minute. As we get into the welcome, as I mentioned, my name is Dr. Blakely, but we do have some new individuals in the room, so if we don't mind, since we have a smaller, intimate space, if you just want to introduce yourself, maybe share how long you've been on the committee, and maybe kind of your professional field, just for some of our newer faces. So I'll start off. Dr. Blakely served as Assistant Vice President for Campus Life and Data Students at HCU, and this is going on my second year here at the Committee. And I have a son as an addition. And I'll pop one over to this.
Thank you. I'm Andres Paz, CXO and partner at Adventure, an advertising agency. I did run Univision and the Latinos for 6 years. This is my first meeting. I'm looking forward to working with everyone in this committee. And I do sit on the outreach committee for the city of Benita Springs. And I'm also chair for the diversity, equity, and inclusion committee for the leadership colleagues / Maples Chamber.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. Welcome, Andres.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Peter Diangui. I teach in the College of Education at Florida Gulf Coast University. I teach diversity classes and other stuff. I'm also the president of the African Network of Southwest Florida. I've been here whatever. 2014 or 15 there, 5-6 years. So I think I'm the oldest member of the group. But I'm glad to be here again. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Lara, Chris Vaughn. I think I've been here since April, I don't remember. Forgot a lot of things. Yeah, I've been here since April, and I'm a realtor. That's about it.
My name is Haitham. I live in Benita Springs too, and I teach with Colorado State University. I own my own contracting company in Florida, registered engineer and contractor. And my son goes to high school in Benita Springs. Thank you.
Paul Baxter, I'm a franchise business owner. I've been here a year now. I'm a franchise business owner, healthcare consulting. I own BCW Enterprises Consulting Group. We strategically consult with small to medium-sized business owners here in Lake County. Have been for 50 years now. Startups, nonprofits, different business. But my main focus is diversity and outreach with our consulting. We have 3 other consultants that I have in our group. I've been involved with the community activism here for 15 years, ever since our ex-mayor is out. Now we got a new one coming in, new leadership. So looking forward to getting involved with that diversity with our new leadership. I think we're doing a great job. We're moving forward. I think a lot of wisdom and courage. And we're really looking forward to this new 2021 academic school year.
My name is Sean Williams. I am a CPA by profession, but I am an activist and ardent LGBTQ plus advocate. And I have been on this committee for about a year. I also sit on the Finance Advisory Committee with the district as well.
Thank you. And then we also don't want to leave out our wonderful district officials, so we the opportunity to do something.
Hi, I'm Betsy Vaughn. I am your school board liaison to this committee, and I've been on liaison to this committee for a few months. I am a retired teacher. I was just chatting and saying I can't believe that it's been 7 years since I was teaching at Estera High School. I taught high school English for 38 years, and that's about it. I'll be giving a little bit of an update and later on in the meeting.
I'll start. My name is Crystal Torres, and yes, I'm the diversity and inclusion coach for our district. This is my going into second year for this position, 14th year instructionally with the district, 17th year overall with the district. I am a product of the Lee County School District, and I have a 6-year-old who is currently at Manatee Elementary School. It's an honor for me to be here, being with you this evening, and to see all of your faces.
Good evening, everyone. Jared Eady. I serve as your staff liaison. Welcome to our new member. It's great to see everyone in person. It's been almost a year. Can't believe it. February, I believe, was our last in-person meeting, so it's great to see you all back outside of the Zoom virtual space. It's good to be here, and turn it over to Tom.
Tony Caro, I'm the Executive Secretary of Procurement. It's a pleasure to be here. I have 4 kiddos at the school district, 2 in high school, and 2 in elementary.
All right, well, pleasure, thank you again for everyone being here tonight, despite, the challenges and barriers that we have. So we'll go ahead and get moving forward with the agenda. So it's funny, you should have a blue folder with your name and has the agenda. We have a motion to move to approve the agenda as currently stated in the document.
Sean Williams, I'll move so.
Williams, you have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approval of the minutes, approval of the agenda? And you should have received as well minutes of our last meeting. We was, because of the storm, we didn't meet in November, so, we need to approve the minutes from our last meeting as well.
Move to approve the minutes as written.
Mr. Williams, second.
I second. I don't.
Thank you. Any discussion with that? All right, so vote for approval of the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously. And now the item we have committee activity.
Good evening again, everyone. So, since we do have some new members on the committee, as well, since it's been a time since we've been apart, we thought it would be a great opportunity for us to participate in an activity. So we're gonna do a committee activity, what's in a name. So I provided you with a piece of cardstock. So if you have a writing utensil, I ask that you place your name somewhere on this specific piece of cardstock. If you do not have a pen to write with, please let me know. We do have some sanitized pens for you to write with. But go ahead and place your name on the cardstock in any design or format you want.
Are you saying in the color?
No, on the cardstock, the piece of this here. Yes, this here. Is that the cardstock? Yep, on that. You want to make it big enough that we can see it or you can see it. The teacher and me had to go around and look and see. The teacher and me. All right, so as we're moving forward, before we do any type of activity, we like to go through our group norms, because we always share aspects of ourselves when we're talking about diversity and inclusion. So our group norms for this evening is to be willing to share your thoughts, be respectful of the views of others, even if we disagree, Try to understand others' perspectives and be open to changing your mind if conversations come around to them. Okay? So let's move into our actual activity. So the activity is called What's in a Name? What's in a name? And we're going to start with a quote. Every name is given for a reason. Each of you have gotten a name from someone in your family in your lineage for a reason. Every name has a meaning. And there are no accidental or arbitrary names. So I'll share an aspect of myself since I don't actually have a pen in front of me. My name is Crystal. My name was given to me by my father. He had a fascination with Crystal Gale. I don't know if you know who Crystal Gale is. She's this amazingly beautiful country singer with blue eyes and black hair. And he just had this amazing infatuation with her. I was his first daughter, and I was born on his birthday. So my father and I share a very special relationship. So he named me after that woman that he just saw was the most beautiful thing in the world. So that's where my name Crystal came from my father. So there's some significant meaning for him to that name. So what I want you to do on your paper with your name, I want you to answer some of these questions. And you can draw, you can doodle, you can write, whichever you decide to do this evening. Who named you? And why were you given that name? What significance does your name have to that specific person? What meanings does your name have for you? Is your name easy for other people to pronounce? Do others around you have the same name? What hopes and dreams does your name hold for the people who gave you your name? As you process that, I'll just say it one more time. Take into consideration the following questions, and you can write your responses with your name on the paper. Who named you, and why were you given that name? What significance does your name have to that person? What meaning does your name have for you? Is your name easy for other people to pronounce? Do others around you have the same name? What hopes and dreams does your name hold for the people who gave you your name? I'll give you about another 30 seconds to kind of process and write. And we're going to do a quick group share. You have 15 seconds. And 10. And 5. Okay, wrap up your final thoughts. Okay, so who wants to be our first brave soul to share out this evening?
Okay.
Dr. Peter, and then we're going to be Ms. Baxter.
How much time do I have?
2.5 hours.
We're going to give you less, but we're going to give you about a minute, Dr. Peter. No, go ahead.
All right. Let's get this right. From now on, don't ever call me Dr. Peter, because that's not my name.
Okay.
I'm going to teach you how to say my name. My name is Diamui. So if I go to number 3, it is very hard for people to pronounce. That's what I wrote down. But when I say how you say it, everybody gets it right. Like I told Jared, what is my name?
Peter Dianui.
Perfect. So this is the way it goes. Dia, can everybody say dia?
Yeah.
New. E. Dia, D-E-A-R. New, like my new friend. E. Dia, nu, E. Dia, Nui. That's a big name, and it's important for me. Not many people around me have the same name. It means warrior. It was given to me by my family, it's a family chain, the greatest elder at the time comes and names the baby. And the first Diangui, the first one, because you're named after people, was a great warrior against the Kikuyus, that's my tribe from Kenya, who are fighting the Maasai. And if you come back alive, you're a good warrior. If you come back with your goats, you're a better warrior. If you come back with your cows, but if you come back with one of their daughters, you're even the greatest warrior. You came with all their birth. It was a very beautiful woman, so all the women in my tribe are very beautiful. So the second one fought for the First World War, he went in Burma. The next one fought in the Second World War. The next one fought for the Kenya's independence. When it was my turn to be named, my spear was a pencil. My shield was a little book. And they said, you'll be fighting, now I'm the last one, for truth, justice, and for the advancement of the tribe and the family. And since then, I have been fighting with a pencil, with a book, and that is how my life has been. My name again is Dianui. One more time, Carl, what's my name? Dianui. Perfect.
Thank you.
I needed that too.
Thank you.
Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, perfect. All right, thank you so much, Dr. David.
You're almost welcome. Find that I got a chance.
All right, Mr. Baxter, we're gonna go over to you.
Well, the first thing you made me why, actually my name is actually, I have a twin brother, believe it or not.
Oh.
I'm a junior, I'm a junior, my dad's a senior. Except a junior, so I'm a third. What it means to me is, you can look on here, I put the little C on it, CRL. And the significance of my name is for my father was, his goal was to create, actually I would call it generational wealth for us because I was the very first one in my family to graduate from college. Do something, finish my point. C stands for career. He wanted us to have a career and to achieve the things that he was unable to achieve. But he was one of the first black engineers over in Henry County. You know, Henry County, small town over there in the county. And the aim was to achieve that. And ours was to represent the entire family. And then I think I was very great at that. My name basically is C.W. Baxter Jr. because I am a junior, so that's very easy to remember. The difference is, back then in the day, probably, can remember that back then, you had to be given a name. So we came with Carl because I'm Carl, and my twin brother is Carlton. Well, I didn't know I had a twin brother, yeah. I have a twin brother. So the thing was hopes and dreams to achieve the things that he was unable to achieve. And we were able to do that. You know, I'm a Howard graduate, my brother's a FAMU. We're graduates there. But you know, basically, it's basically, I think it's, for my heritage, was the name of it is Baxter, means authority, sovereignty. Sovereignty, when you look at what we did in family history, and coming back, sorry, these max tail, things change. Coming from the historic was from the Indian tribe, which represents authority. Believe it or not, sovereignty.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baxter.
Good.
That was perfect, thank you so much. Okay, do I have someone else that wants to share?
Address.
You're the new kid.
Right into the fire. I will be glad to share. So I'm Andres Felipe. I do have a middle name. Both of Andres was picked by my dad, and Felipe was picked by my mom. They were not too creative, as these are some of the most popular names that you'll find in Colombia. I actually happened to graduate with 7 Andreses, 4 of which were Andres Felipe from high school. So it was very common at the time. They do have a biblical connotation that we're both apostles, and that is one of the reasons why they picked those 2 names.
Okay.
My last name, it's Paz. It used to be De La Paz back in the days. My heritage is from the Madrid region of Spain, but when in Colombia during the independence period, there was a little bit of prosecution against the Spaniards. So a lot of them changed their last names to not sound so Spanish. So a lot of the D last were dropped. And then we just kept the last portion of the last name. So it used to be De La Paz, currently Paz. And is it hard to pronounce? For some reason, Americans struggle with that R. I don't know, I don't get it. So I've known people for a long time. My business partner has known me for 15 years, and to this day, he still pronounces it Andreas. It doesn't have a second A, there's just one A in it, and it does have an accent on the E, so it's Andres, the way that it's supposed to be
I can't
pronounced.
say that address.
Yes, Andres. And as far as expectations, not much really. I come from relatively large families from both on my dad's and my mom's side. There are other men that will continue to have more kids, and the last name will be out there in many different ways. So that's it. That's my story.
Thank you for sharing this
You're
evening. Thank you so much. Okay, who's going to be willing to go next? Oh, thank you, Ms. Vaughn.
Lara.
Lara.
Nice.
That's the reason that we do this.
Okay, so my mom named me after the movie Lara's theme from Dr. Zhivago. It's Russian. I think it's a beautiful name. I actually like it, but I do find it that a lot of people find it hard to pronounce. So I'm called Laura. I'm called Laura a lot.
Put the back down.
Spanish people call me Lara, but it's Lara. And I do not, for some reason, when people call me Laura, sometimes they think I'm ignoring them. I'm not. I just don't relate. And sometimes they'll pass my name like, you didn't call me. Yes, we did. You did not. So it gets annoying. But yeah, it's Lara without the U. A lot of people find it hard to pronounce, like I said. And it's very rare. It's not a lot of Laras out there. And my father gave me my middle name, which is Mikhail. But a lot of people call me Michelle too. So it's Lara Mikhail. But, and then there's no really legacy behind my name. I mean, there was remember my father passed away because he never had a boy. And where we come from, the boy has to carry the legacy. So I was chosen to carry it on his behalf for some weird reason. I don't know why. But, so that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Lara.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we have a few more. Dr. Blakely or Dr. Marble?
Well, I was named by my mother, and she named me after a scientist. And he was a medieval time scientist in our culture, originally from Egypt. So she named me after him, seeking that I will, of course, become a scientist, a physician, or an engineer. And definitely, I took these steps towards that. A lot of people, of course, have a difficulty in pronouncing my name, but in an incident I met about it, she was maybe a first grader or a second grader, and she was asking me about my name. So at that age, they teach them, how to spell things or pronounce things easier. So she's the one that actually picked up the way that I normally introduce myself, which is hi thumb. And there is other meanings for my name, like the lion or eagle. And I stand up for courage, what I believe in, and I steadfast in it. So these are the things that I like to give to people. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Dr. Blakely?
Yes, so speaking of my name, I'm the youngest, since my older brother. So actually, when I was born, my parents were expecting to have a girl. So they didn't have an immediate name for me, so my name kind of happened in the hospital. Like, okay, what are we gonna do now? So, girl, and showed up. So Christopher, was something my family come from a spiritual background. So my name does mean with Christ. So that is kind of the connotation to that. It is a common name. I remember coming up in school, similarly. I tell people all the time, you know at least 5 people named Chris. Anybody in this room knows at least 5 people named Chris. So it was a common name, so that led to many nicknames or variations. So oftentimes people's like, what do you go by? Like really, it's Christopher, things like that. So it's definitely a common name, so it's not something that's difficult to pronounce for some people. I think when I was growing up, it was top 10 all through school, most common names. I used to always check one. It's always common. But one of the things for the last question here, when I was dropped off in college, I remember this to this day, it's kind of a connotation to my last name as well, Blakely. My dad said, I don't have a lot to give you, but what I can give you is my name. And that's what he gave me as I go off and said, now make something of this. So I was given a name, but the life I'm given is mine to make something of it. So that's.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blakely.
Interesting, that's so interesting. I got 57 people in my contacts. That's Chris. That's why I nominated 57 in my contacts.
And my, just on the side of my son's middle name is Christopher.
57.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, are you willing to share as well?
Sure. My name is Sean. It was picked by both parents, but I think my mom had a better hand on it because I was named after Sean Connery. It's a unique individual, and I think that the name also had a foreseeable future, that they wanted me to be successful and to be maybe in pictures, but obviously that didn't happen. I ended up being a boring CPA. Others spell my name differently: S-E-A-N, S-H-O-N, S-H-A-U-N. I do spell it the common way, which is S-H-A-W-N. It's not the Irish way, which people tend to point out quite adamantly. So I think that my name has a very unique quality to me. Like Dr. Blakely, I was the first in college, and that name was something that my parents gave me, and I was able to carry on and actually be the first to graduate in college. So it was good for me.
Mr. Williams.
We'll get me on.
Give an opportunity. Ms. Vaughn, are you willing to share this evening?
No.
Okay.
Something I wanted to say about the unisex names and teachers. Go around the room the first day and you write down, and the Christinas and the Christophers and everybody, they'll go Chris. And so you'll put Chris or even Sean on a seating chart, and then after you have like 150 kids, you look and go, was that the boy Chris or the girl? So the unisex names, which are very popular, sometimes present that problem. And the reason I don't want to share is I don't have any great story to tell. I'll tell you this much. My given name is Elizabeth, but I've really never gone by that except like on legal documents and things like that. And my mother was Elizabeth, and she always went by Betty, and so they decided to call me Betsy. And I never liked my name. Of course, some of the kids, in elementary school, the nicknames, somehow they knew Elizabeth as well, even though I didn't go by it. And so I guess because I had long legs and I could run fast then, lizard legs, I'm sure some of you have, that's a lovely name. And the other thing I hated, because I'm old, and Fess Parker, Davy Crockett was on TV then, and do you remember the name of his gun? old Betsy.
Mhm.
And then there was Betsy Wetsy, the doll.
The doll.
So, I'll be honest, I don't know any of the answers to the rest of the names. But, back in elementary school, neither Elizabeth or Betsy were, all my friends were Karen and Kathy and Linda. Anyway, so there you go.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, it's such an intellectual story.
Appreciate it. So as we wrap up, we did this activity tonight specifically because when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk a lot about our assets and our identities. So it's important for us to understand as individuals and working with others around us, the identity of those around us. So this is incorporated with our diversity and inclusion aspects because now I have walked out of here understanding a different part of your identity this evening, just by your name. So I thank you again for sharing this evening with me and with those of us around you. So thank you.
You didn't want Jared and Tony?
Oh, Jared, Tony, you want to share?
No, I think.
Come on, Jared. You can do this.
So
Tony, I bet Tony's not your real name. Is that your given name?
That's my given.
Oh, okay. There's one.
And Jared?
Well, thank you all for participating. What they shared.
Well, I mean, sure. My name was selected because they were trying to find a name that would fit, that would sound pretty good for a kid and an older person. So what would be a good name that would fit for a baby, someone who was calling, and someone who was an adult? And so that's where my first name came from, much like we were talking about earlier. I remember being a kid, people would call it Jared with a D. It is Jarrett, much like the race car driver. But as a kid, I got used to going to stores where they would get the pins and the names would be on there. I would get the Jared as a consolation prize. So I understand, and that's why this activity is so important. Your names are affirming. And it's important for you to know how to pronounce your name and a person's name correctly, because that's a part of your identity. So these are the contexts and conversations that we endeavor through professional development and sharing with teachers. We thought it was important for us to have this conversation of coming back together as a group and a way to understand our identity, but also understand the correct pronunciation of names, et cetera. So, to echo Crystal's point, thank you so much for indulging us in the activity.
And just to add something about the names, and on a serious note, for many of us who are seen to have difficult names, when you want to test the level of diversity of a person and whether he respects or she respects you, if they don't try your name, put a question mark. If they're still butchering your name after 2-3 years, put a question mark even more. In other words, people who care for you, people who respect you. I mean, it's easy for us friends to say Peter and Christian and the quiz and all that. But if you see a person is still calling you degree or something, and you've been together for quite some time, the level of diversity to be the measure. May not be the only one, but it disappears. I'm telling you, it's important. This is good.
Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you for sharing. So we'll move to our next agenda item, which is to discuss our 2021 topics of interest selection. So what we'll do is we'll kind of go through the list of responses that were collected, and then kind of group these into affinity groups to kind of narrow those down. So there are about 12 of that came to understanding, we're going to kind of narrow those down. And I'll read those off, and also they're also posted on the wall and kind of explain what that is in the color code that you received here. So you all should have a color code here. So I'll kind of run through the list just so you're aware of them. The list that was compiled, topics of interest from the survey, were communication plan district surveys, community relations and parent engagement, COVID-19 updates, state testing updates, minority recruitment, inclusive education and cultural relevant teaching, Islamophobia, restorative practices, positive prevention, LGBTQ practices and policies, proficiency in disparities, law enforcement in schools, and and trauma-informed care and mental health. So now as a committee, we'll try to go through the process of selecting topics of interest for the year. You'll be given the opportunity to select 3 topics of interest, and they'll all hang here in the front of the room. So once again, as we go through this process, each member uses 3 stickers to place on the topic they're most interested in learning about, and then we'll tally those up. Just kind of be mindful as well, we're still practicing physical distancing, so as you are marking your stations, kind of make sure mindful of that, as well as our masks throughout the process, keep us all safe. Then we'll kind of look at the top 3 or 4 topics of interest to be selected, and then these presentations will be scheduled for the upcoming meetings. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may interject for a second. If you all notice, we do have several members who are not here. As an alternative to this, the very similar process that you all are undertaking right now for the selection of your topics of interest will be provided to the members who are absent today, so that their selections and choices will be a part of the overall selection when it goes back to the board chair and our board liaison. So I just want you all to know that you're gonna make your selections here, but your selections will then roll up with the Google form that's going out to the members who were not able to join us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Is there any difference in the colors, like green means first choice or?
No,
Yeah.
no, sir.
If you want to create that yourself, or you
No,
want
I just want to know because they're different.
Yeah, I think we just want to tally the number of ones, so if we have just one sticker, so we're looking at counting stickers, not necessarily colors.
So, Dr. Bricker, you say I take a sticker if I think that is something I need,
Something that you would like for the committee to be one of the areas that we discuss.
and I put only in 3 of them.
3 of them out of the top areas. So you may want to take some time to kind of review the top areas, and then it's your top 3. And as Mr. Edie shared, that will then be shared with the members who are not present on the Google form for them to select their top 3. And then we'll tally that out to see where we're at. And if there's ties, then like that, we'll come back and discuss our next steps.
So since we came, do we get to vote twice?
Yeah, just pick what you have, Mr. Williams.
Yes, there's
You would choose your
the
top 3.
top 3. We moved.
After you, go right ahead.
You're the new kid,
You already know that?
Go right ahead.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's some.
You guys meet, you guys meet,
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ironic, back when this first started, everyone was shut down. Now it's twice as bad or.
Now, what do you guys have fun?
Yeah.
Now that's what
So
you're
now
thinking.
it's twice as bad, so.
No, you're all tired.
Florida for you, right?
I know, I know. Ms. Crystal, thank you for giving me a chance to teach you how to pronounce my name.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
You know, I always enjoy learning something new.
Janet, I've told you, he was probably one of the people who
talking about?
started a long time ago, knowing how to pronounce it perfectly.
We want, yeah,
Thank you so much.
I agree on one.
I wonder what if you want to share.
Sorry.
The list of the topics you gotta send out.
Carol, is that?
Yeah.
I can send them out to you.
Spain.
You're from Spain?
Oh, okay. I have not.
Thank you for participating with that. As we mentioned, we'll make sure that we are communicating with you, our list of the other committee members who are able to attend. And then I think there was a ask from one of the committee members that we could get the list of
Yes.
that was presented tonight. So yeah, we'll revisit that.
I'm in school again. Starting all over again.
Taking notes. So the January 11th meeting will be a meeting conducted with the proximity plan community meeting for our January 11th meeting. This location and time will be sent to you through your email the week before the meeting. Any questions or discussion with the topic area?
So to reiterate the point by the chairman, if I may, if you all notice next door, they actually are working on the stakeholder groups for the proximity plan. In conjunction with that, you all were the first group where proximity started. You all were the first group that actually met with them and said, we're able to come and have that meeting way back when we first started our meetings virtually. So we've asked for the opportunity to have a consolidated effort. We attempted to try to make it work for tonight, but because of social distancing, it just happened we had to be next door. So the meeting in January is a topic very similar to what we talked about with board liaison. There would be times where the district departments and divisions who specifically want EDAC's advice related to something that's happening in contemporary. So the thought would be for January, that you as a committee would have an opportunity to engage what they're doing next door in the public fashion and participate in that meeting. It'll be information forthcoming, where the location and time. But I just wanted to make sure you all, reiterate what the chairman said. That would be January's meeting, and then after that, we pick up for the balance of the year with whatever comes out of your topics of interest.
The next agenda item is Untitled Liaison.
Okay, how many of you actually keep up with what the board does? Watch meetings either from home or come in person, or, I'm just curious about that.
I hear it from the grapevine.
Ah, okay, well, there's nothing like the real thing. All right, so a couple things. First of all, and can everybody hear me over that sound? Yeah, it's loud. Yeah, I'm pretty loud teaching. I think probably most of you are familiar with the modes of learning that we're doing, either the face-to-face or the Home Connect. And the Home Connect is each period, if you're in high school or middle school, you go to your particular classroom and are instructed by the teacher, or it's real-time instruction, okay? Some of those classes may be that the teacher has a hybrid class, where the teacher has some kids in front of her face-to-face and others, and that, to me, I'm so glad I'm not teaching now and having to keep up with faces on the screen at the same time. And then there's the virtual school. The virtual school has existed for quite a while. And the virtual school is more independent learning. You have different modules for the classes that you take, and you have to be well organized, I think, to do the virtual. But it is offered from kindergarten through senior year of high school, and I'm, definitely. Mom or dad needs to be there, somebody needs to help guide the younger children through that. So those are the three ways that kids can attend school. And of course, there's this very small percent doing homeschool. Well, no surprise to those of us who have taught, the in-person learning is the best for most kids. There are a lot of kids, like I'm gonna use my grandson as an example. He's in middle school, he's in 8th grade this year. He's an average level student, but he's made mostly A's in school. So this year, his grades really took a nosedive. He's not great at organizing or attention, and we have a lot of kids like that. And so what happened at the end of the first quarter is that the academic services took a look at the grades, and there were a lot of students who had D's or F's in one or more classes. So we're trying to bring more students in, and I think I may have said something about that in October. Well, it's expanded even since then. And I think yesterday might have been, was it yesterday was the deadline? Jared, do you remember? I think it was for the selection, although sometimes deadline is flex, right? But you just, yeah. And the district contacted the parents of all of those students who had D's and especially F's, and talked to them briefly and, gave them, an on the phone message, talking directly to them on the phone and helping them make a decision. What do you want to do? And of course, it's a terribly hard decision. Again, I'm gonna go back to my own daughter. She and my grandson's dad are divorced, and they've been divorced for a number of years, and she wants him to go back, and the dad doesn't really, and my daughter is conflicted about it because she feels like it's the best for him, but then we have the COVID. So the bottom line on all of this has been huge with academic services dealing with these issues, and a lot of the parents are very distressed. They know it's better, especially if the child is not doing so well. And so our semester ends later than normal. Often it ends right before Christmas vacation, but it goes, I think, to the end of January, doesn't it?
January 29th.
29th, okay. But some of the kids, if they're doing really poorly and need to be brought back to face-to-face, some of the kids can go back January 5th, right after. And so anyway, that's what's happening on the academic front. I don't have any breakdowns on, the students that they really initially wanted to get in face-to-face are the English language learners, the ELLs, especially the ones that are monolingual and speak very little English, and also ESE, the children with special needs of any kind, to get them back in. These figures change at any given time on how many are, homeschooled or any kind of virtual versus face-to-face. I don't know, Jared or Krista, have you seen any kind of racial or socioeconomic breakdowns of any of these?
Not at this point, no.
Yeah, so that probably, would that be something that the committee would be interested in, just not a presentation, but seeing see about maybe getting socioeconomic and racial and that sort of thing, and ESE and the ELL, English Language Learner. I'll take a look and ask for those just to let you know. So is there anything about academic front? Because the next thing I want to talk briefly is about the LGBTQ topic that we discussed quite a bit in October. I think Peter had a question first.
You said not a presentation, but I think for the purpose of this committee, we need that. In other words, those forms of instruction that are there, and whereas I know there are big challenges, the families must be involved and must decide the safety issues and everything else. Then result is also how it's affecting the diversity groups, because these issues are strong. The face-to-face, of course, you understand, the virtual, that's okay, but this hybrid, I have a big issue about hybrid. I know in college we have that, but it's a challenge. As a teacher, I'm either watching the screen or watching the journey here. When you combine them, they confuse. I think it's very hard. I know it must be applied, but I do know my hat's off to the teachers who have to watch those kids on the screen and work with those ones. I wish we can avoid that and stick to either face-to-face or virtual. But what I would suggest with that, Betsy, is, in fact, I was going to propose that the superintendent could come in either the January or February meeting when there is some form of data available, because we need some data to the results. Because it's only the first semester anyway on that. So you have some data on see how is it affecting the different form modes of instruction and also the different diverse groups.
Was that a topic that people were looking at or suggested? I
It
don't
may
know
not
that
be a
was-
major topic among those ones, but I
And
think,
then talk about
Yes, ma'am, it is.
efficiency and disparities as well as
Right.
wasted.
Okay, so it might be
And
as,
COVID.
as part of that,
Right.
as,
And
as
COVID.
part of that.
so,
The interesting thing is, I thought the number of hybrids would actually go down at the end of the first quarter, because a lot of kids at the end of the first quarter came back to face and actually went up.
yeah,
That's another
that's
thing.
hybrid.
I think Sean had a question too.
So I completely agree with Mr. Dianui.
Who got it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Figured I'd try it out among your friendly faces.
You are perfect.
So we need data. And I think that we need to look at how minority populations are doing with each model of education. And I've also heard that what they are encouraging face-to-face for those children that are not doing well on the Lee Home Connect or virtual, and that they're inviting them back in, and that there are no steadfast deadlines for that, that they can do it whenever the parents feel it's needed to get them back into face-to-face. So I do like the flexibility that the district is giving families to make this decision. I also like the fact that the principals and vice principals are getting involved to educate the parents about the safeguards that are put in place for their children and their families. Because I think that that is hugely important, that if a parent has their parents, multi-generational family and living, that they can look at it from the aspect of the entire family, not just about that person.
Yeah, and therein lies the problem. We have a lot of the multi-generational and, I mean, parents or a sibling or, and that's a huge problem. It's a huge part of the decision that the parents make on that. But I think for the purposes of this committee, try to get, maybe we can talk after this meeting, some kind of breakdowns on the different socioeconomic and racial and.
Just a 30,000
Yeah,
foot
right, not everything,
elevation, so that we can sort of see where these models are working and where they're breaking down.
but- And the deadlines have become quasi-deadlines.
Well, and I think
And
they
it's
should be
good,
flexible.
it's good and it's bad though, because the bad side is, think about the teachers, and think about like the assistant principal of curriculum that's got to schedule all these kids back in if the teacher already has maximum in his or her class, it becomes a puzzle.
It does, and transportation, everything gets involved, but also what is very interruptive is a school being closed down because of a COVID outbreak, where then all of a sudden, on an emergency basis, families have to stop working to take care, to watch their kids.
Exactly.
So it is a happy medium that, you know, we're not bringing it into the classrooms, but we're also educating our students.
And to move it along just a little bit, because I think it is an important topic, I wanted to touch base on your what word should I use? Recommendation. Somehow, I couldn't think of recommendation, I was thinking about more like mandate or something like that, but anyway. Did bring it up. If you've been following the board meetings, and we'll see how close to the grapevine you've been, yes, we are going to have LGBTQ training for the board. Okay, so that was one. Now, the other thing was, you kind of gave me a carte blanche on, well, Betsy, we trust you to represent our views, even though I tried to squeeze it out of you to tell me something specific. So I said that when we were going over those resolutions, that also became quite the topic, the resolutions, and the difference is there's resolutions and acknowledgements. The resolutions are like whereas this, whereas that, then we, I mean, if you read this long, you've seen the resolutions before. And an acknowledgement is just briefly acknowledging it's National Sleep Week or something like that. There is something like that, which I think is funny when our kids get on the buses at like 10 to 6 or something. The sleep week thing is very funny. But anyway, that was another long discussion. What we finally wound up with is months, like if it's not a week or a day, which some of them are, you know, it's like Read Across America Week, which we will definitely acknowledge. And it mentions history or, what's the other one? Oh, I've lost my mind here.
Heritage.
Heritage, thank you. History, heritage, if it mentions that, then we're going to, because we didn't want to insult every group. I mean, we're going through it and, you know, some people initially didn't want to do Hispanic. And there was a lot of discussion, but I think we had it settled. There was a slight discussion on Pride Month, which is June, and October for the history. And we decided that it would be better to just do LGBTQ History Month in October, since we're not even normally in school. This year we will be in June. Any questions on that? I hope I carried out the wishes of the committee. I think I did. I think we got it across to everybody, so we good?
Yes.
All right.
I really want to thank you for speaking up at the workshop and at the meeting. It was very well received, and I want to appreciate, I really want to thank the entire board for including LGBT history, because it is important to understand different perspectives, no matter where we stand on the spectrum. And as the workshop showed, there is plenty of room for education on our board. when members of the board removed themselves from a meeting because they didn't agree with the movement of LGBTQ history, which is just a small drop in the big pond of the ocean of diversity and inclusion. It was a little bit straining. So thank you for continuing with that. Thank you to Ms. Gittens for also standing up for the community. It was very well received by the community, and it is a big movement forward, even just in that little effort and that recognition.
Yeah, and I think it's really important in that our students in that community are subject to a lot of bullying. And there are a lot of, depressions, even suicide, and I think when the board members take the training, they're going to be surprised at the rates of those things, because there are a lot of children that hide their identity, and I know in the general community, but we're not out in the community to educate. I learned this when I was running as a candidate, the misunderstanding and people confusing transgender with transvestite. And if somebody has their mind like this, there's no reasoning with them. So anyway, I think it'll be good for all concerned. So I've really taken too much time, and yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to join Mr. Williams to thank you, Betsy, because I think you presented, we asked you to do that, and you presented us quite well. We saw it, we know it.
Just don't do
And the other
that
thing
again.
I want to say to the board is
Tell me
this,
something
that
specific.
it cannot, diversity cannot be selective. You can't just because of what you want to hear. That because you're a man, oh, we should be presented to another women. It has to be even things you don't want to hear. And that's why education becomes very important. You cannot just say that there are problems everywhere else except in my house. Start pointing out, and that's what you're doing, and you're presenting those ideas to everybody who did not see the value of having the LGBTQ and every other group to understand. You cannot be selective in diversity. You have to present everybody, and thank you for putting it the way we asked you to do it. And I would like that to be record and support Mr. Williams, that the board appreciates the board representation by the board members.
You know, something else that may be of interest to this committee is the fact that we've gone back and forth. We voted, instead of doing invocation, to have moment of silence. And then it was 4-3 in favor of moment of silence. But then one of the people, Ms. Gittens, changed her mind on it, and it came back and it went just the opposite way. So we are again going to have, we're still working the process on this, a list of like pastors, reverends, rabbis, many different religions who are willing to do an invocation. And so we will have, which is a good thing, representatives of many religions, not just Christian. So that is probably of interest to us, not to mention.
I also want to say that it's very important that just the recognition of History Month, especially when the board passed its most expansive non-discrimination policy that it has ever, well, almost in all of Florida. So it is good that you are following that policy recommendation as well. So thank you again. And I'm sorry, but I have to leave for a 7 o'clock meeting.
From my standpoint, thank you all so much for your attendance. I hope you all have a happy holiday season and happy new year to you all. For the next part of the process, we will gather everything that's been provided tonight for your topics of interest, and then we'll solicit the information from the balance of your committee members who are not here. And then that information will be then provided to our board liaison and your committee chair based on board policy. It states that they shall drive the direction of how the agendas are structured. As you all recall, the topics that are on the board were provided to staff from you. The survey went out and asked you to think of 2 areas of interest. And as we said earlier from our chairman, speaking of chairman, everybody say hi, Dennis. So we would take that and provide that to Chair Quigley, our board liaison, or Vice Chair Dr. Blakely, and to come up with the schedule. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to your attendance January 11th as we talk about proximity.
Right, as we run through the next part of the agenda, anything good of the order?
I still had I don't know whether it was recorded, I wanted to request that the superintendent attends our next meeting, well, maybe January or February meeting, because the number of issues of what we had raised in his motion, so that we are also very clear to us with the media. So it will be very important that we have in the preset to ETAC. Some issues that Ms. Ford talked about, but as superintendent, there are a whole wide range of issues. I would like to request that we have him either January or February. I'm glad Mr. Gisbert is here right now. Thank you.
So ultimately, that'll be the decision. I know you're looking at direct Dr. Peters, you know.
Right, well.
That'll be the decision of
The chair.
the chair and the board liaison, and also with the procedure you all set about what you want to talk about with the topic. So I'll defer to the chair and the board liaison.
So the January 11th meeting clarifies for the proximity plan meeting.
That's okay. So I can put it in February meeting. So the superintendent.
Move a motion for?
Yes, I move a motion that in the February meeting we have the superintendent with us to clarify his vision and the number of issues that we move on.
So Dr. Peter is looking to put a motion on the floor to have the superintendent come to present on top areas related to COVID and disparities. I want to make sure it's correct.
And by that time you have the data,
Data
sets
sets,
that and the media and his vision, the new.
So there's a motion to have the superintendent come to our February meeting to provide some statistical information and context to COVID-19 updates and as well as the statistical breakdown of minoritized groups as well as other disparities. So the motion on the floor.
I'd like to second.
So all in favor to have
Dr. Blakely, may I ask a clarifying question? Dr. Dini, I heard 2 comments in that. One, you mentioned COVID, and then 2, you mentioned his new vision. So is that relative to Vision 2030 or his top big 5 goals?
Right. It's big goals and also addressing some data on the results of what has happened, what we just talked about, right? Please. And he can be more flexible in what he feels good to present either on issues of this.
the motion is for the superintendent to come to present in February to discuss vision as well as updates on COVID-19 and disparities. And modalities.
Right.
All right, so all in favor of that? Aye. For the record and such, any additional good on the order? Seeing none, do we have any public comments, any equal?
So if there's nothing else, sorry, before you go, I would like it to be recorded that we really, from either point of view, we really appreciate the effort the district has done to cope with the pandemic. The adjustment, the flexibility, I think that needs to be recorded because we represent the communities, you know what's going on, it's not easy. And that should be recorded as a point of order. I want that note.
Yeah. I agree.
So can you say that again to hear clearly? I want to make sure I get it
The
right.
IDA committee, yeah, let me put it in a motion for the IDA committee, would like to to recognize that we're in support of the work that the district have done in these uncertain times to cope up with the pandemic and try to make it as flexible as possible, while still trying to be a world-class district.
So it's a motion to formally recognize and appreciation to the district for their flexibility in the barriers and challenges of COVID-19 in the school district. All right, then we have a motion on the floor, do we have a second?
Repeat that again.
It is for us to formally recognize our support for the district in their flexibility for the modality of the COVID-19 instructional models, as well as facing the challenges and barriers that face us this academic year.
So how do we go about doing that? What is the recognition consist of?
It will be officially put into the record and,
I'll just,
share.
I'm writing down writing a lot of stuff here. And I will just, when I give my board member report, I'll say, the EDAC committee would like me to pass it on. And so it'll be in the school board record from my board member, comments.
And for the new members, address, because I know you asked that question, the purpose of this committee, seriously, if things are going well, we say they're going well. If they're not going well, we say they're not going well, right? That's simple. So I think that aspect, they have tried, they have done well, we should show the combination and put it in language that we are doing.
So the motion's on the floor for Dr. Dinwiddie to formally recognize the school board in recognition to that. Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Howard. All in favor?
Right.
Unanimously.
Can we go back and read, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, just to make sure, Madam Recording Secretary, can you recall and state the motion that you have written to make sure we have the right verbiage?
The first motion or the second motion?
The second one that we just
Second
passed.
motion, EDAC would like to formally recognize the school board and the County School District for support and flexibility for the challenges that we have faced during the pandemic.
For coping with the challenges.
For coping with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a quick comments or an idea that I'd like to discuss. Of course, I mean, us as a committee, we always look forward to, to have the rights of minorities, of diversity, communities. But we also have to look forward that how well they prosper or how well our students, diverse students, after they finish our system, our school system, how well did they succeed? And what is the percentage compared to the majority? For example, whatever the majority is going to be, let's say white, kids looking at, other diverse small group, how well our students did. I mean, did they, let's say, how many of them finished college? How many of them got a job? I mean, how many of them ended in jail? These things is important for us to look forward that if our system is working correctly, and if our students not only given the rights, because we are in the 21st century, but we want them to prosper and have the same success like the rest of the community. So I look forward for, it's not a motion, it's just a comment that I'd like to keep in the back of our mind. I mean, we don't want only to seek the rights, but we want them to prosper and success and be competitive with the different, could be the majority of the community or the other side. How well are they doing?
I think those are some of the things in the areas we identified, topic areas that may be able to drill down to a little further in those, scalpel down to. We talk about proficiency disparities that could really be drilled down into disparities of, those attending college and such forth. So we'd like you to share that. Any other thing, the committee to the order? Any public comments received via email? So no public comment, no good order, we have a motion for adjournment. Motion, second. A motion by Dr. Newman, seconded by Mr. Bradford.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Noted it.